call me the Scandinavian Seeress. So I'm Catherine, and I've been doing some videos on the link. I've been certified in meditation, mindfulness. I've gone through many different cultures, 5 of the 7 different continents I've been through, and seen a lot of religious doctrine. I do study theologies of the world as well as cultures. You can't really define a culture without that, as well as I am a therapist and a counselor, and I've worked in multiple disciplines, from mentorships all the way up to teacher to therapeutic interventions, as well as spiritual and physiological. I am Scandinavian, so I do practice my Norse. But anyone that knows a lot about different types of cultures can also identify, and anybody that's Scandinavian or Norse, we are interested in multiple different cultures and how they see the world, especially through their theologies and denominations. So it's not the first, second, or third time I've read many doctrines. I have a lot of doctrines of theologies from the Kabbalah down to the biblical, to Norse, to mythologies. I keep a lot of the documentations, and there's a lot of connectivity to meditation, Taoism. Then there's the Buddhism and Hinduism, and of course, Tibetan, and many different denominations that link. So let's move on into what I've been saying I was going to talk about. So when I originally started, you can go back and watch those videos, is the shadow side, where you had the 7 fallen princes, the 7 deadly sins, the 7 sisters of the underworld, and then we moved over into what's considered the light side. But when it comes to energy, they're different. So then we went over to the light side, and the light side was, the archangels. Then you had your 7 virtues. Then you also had your 7 counterparts, which is your 7 female archangels, and how they balance each other out. Now, both, mind you, what I said in the last videos, you can go back and watch the 7 female archangels, and they are the balancers. Well, the same is this. It in theory is the same in the dark shadowy side. So the 7 sisters of the underworld also are a balancer. They're a little bit more action take, and a lot of times they are attributed to Lilith. I think I told a story about that, because of Lucifer and him coming down. And then the light side is more, Eve is based on that. And so if you want to talk the feminine part, we can do that part. Now, mind you, it's all how you play with the energies. And so when they talk about light, you would think that it's more of a hyper energetic, it's heat, it's warming everything up, and it's starting to bubble everything. And in theory, when it comes to energy, in quantum physics, it's not really that way. The dark side seems to be more of a low hum. So there's a vibration, and then there's a frequency. And so that's kind of how the play goes when it goes from the light side. When we're talking about light side, and we're talking about shadowy dark matter, is we're talking about the vibrations and the frequencies and how they can play with each other. And when they come towards the middle is really what we're going to start working on. And so now we're talking about going into what's called the 7 trials. And these are our doctrines. I'm even going to give you in the biblical text where it is linked, what archangel or female archangel it goes to, what shadowy side, the 7 sins that it was linked to, as well as there's the significance of some of the 7s. And we'll keep going with the 7s, because 7s don't end just here. These are just trying to get you to really start looking at what 7s mean, because it took 7 days for God to create Earth, and put everything in place. And 7th day was the day of rest. There's every 7 days we have a new moon phase. Every 14 days we have another reset. And then every 7 years we have another things. And so basically, even in the biblical time, from Judaism to Islamic, there is written in, I can only tell you the Judaist type, because they named it more of a different, instead of the 7-year turnover, they use it, a terminology called the Jubilee. And so it's a 7-year Jubilee, and that's like every 7 years is the cleansing or the cleaning. And so that's how they describe it in the most clear definition when it comes to that. It's every 7 years we should clean out everything and renew, renew your vows, renew your faith, renew your cleanse your body, cleanse your house, cleanse your whole aura, really is what it's called. And the earth will do the same thing every 7 years. If you notice that, it'll be a click over. And a shift. So let's move on to the 7 trials. So trial number 1 is Peter. You can find it in Peter 1, chapter 7. Chapter 1, verse 7 is really where it talks about being genuine and faith, having faith in it. And it really is about the trial of sitting in the world where we are and having faith that it will be provided when the time is right, that the door will be open, and just to have it genuine, not have it impressed or faith or you have to overthink yourself saying, no, I have to. It just is a being. It's a state of knowing. And so they are related to this trial is actually related to Gabriel and his counterpart, which is Heniel. And so there's the intuitive part, which is Heniel, which is the female version of being more just the knowing inside, the being inside. And then you have Gabriel, and he is your strength. So he gives you the strength to make sure that we can persevere or prevail within this state of unknowing. And so one of the trials is to have faith when you have no direction, when you have no knowing of what's going to happen. You just have faith that inside everything's going to work out just fine. And so that is one of the trials. So that's trial 1. Trial 2 is James, in James 1, 2 through 4. So it's a little bit more, and I could read it, but I'd ask you to go back and read each one. And so it is all about being joy, finding joy, and having patience within the joy. Now, patience is not, I wait. Patience is more of a state of being of we're okay. Look at all of this. It's no need to rush. There's not a rush. There's not a jump. It's got to be handled right now. It's just the joy of just being, of just living, breathing, looking, seeing. So it is all about seeing. So the archangel, but this one is the archangel Shemuel, which is the god of seeing, and so he's related to the state of the second trial. You're going to need to call him in if you wanted to, persevere and gain patience with just seeing joy everywhere, right? So that is it. Shemuel is your second. And so when you go through these trials, and as I'm going, we'll talk about who's related to what and why. So Romans 8:28, and it is beauty in all of God's. Your trial is you need to see the beauty in everything, which is lack of judgment. So you need to not judge or speak harshly, be angry towards something or someone that does not fit your ideal or is not as righteous as you believe that they're supposed to be. Not be as judgmental. You need to see the beauty within all creatures that were created. And that's really what the trial is. To see past the destruction, the disease, and see the beauty within. The beauty that God has created on every creature. The Creator has manifested into the world is beautiful, whether it is dark or light, if it's decaying or if it's not, if it's death or life. And so Jophiel, now this is the Jofiel. And if you need to go back, you got to go back and watch the video, because there's 2 Jophiel and then there's Jophiel. And Jophiel is the state of being, and it is all about being, and I am is beauty, God's beauty. That's it. That's the state. It's a righteousness. It's not actually an actual differentiation of the being and the action and the being when it's the female and the male. This one is universal. So it is actually a characteristic style that this one is. So it's actually being characteristic. And this is a frequency that you you will obtain. So Jophiel, Jofiel, is a frequency. So that's going to be something of more of a, are we seeing the beauty like this? And of course, they work together with Shemiel, but we see the beauty. And then there's another one that does vibrations, but beauty is the frequency. And again, that is Romans 8:28. And then you have James 1:12, and that is to persevere, preserve, protect the light that was promised. Protect my promise. When the source or creator or God had said, I will come down and I'll protect my people, you need to protect that, protect them too, because you are the beacon, you are the light. And so, the ones that are so closely, and here's the other Jophiel is really it, is Uriel, which is the god of light, and Jophiel, which is the knowledge. She protects the knowledge. And she was the guardian. Remember in Eden, she was the guardian of the tree of knowledge. And Uriel was the guardian of Eden itself, of the light. And then you had Lucifer and Lilith, and that story went with treachery, and Adam and Lilith had a dispute, and she didn't come back, and he was upset, but he didn't go look for her, and so he just said, well, she's gone, can't create me anyone. And so that's kind of how that worked. And well, kind of like sounds like a lot of stories and soap operas nowadays. So it seems like that may have some validity to it, since it seems to be the same with creations. You can get tarot readers and they read the same kind of script almost. Biblical is same. And if you read several others, it's kind of on the same theme. So Uriel is the light. Jophiel is the knowledge, or the thought behind it. And that trial is to preserve and protect the promise of everlasting enlightenment. And then you have John 16, which is, what is that, the fifth one? That's the fifth trial. And that is the trial of sadness and sorrow, hopelessness, depression. This is absolute, the worst agony of sorrow, sadness, and disbelief of life. And a lot of the trials on this one is usually a death or a rejection on a really super soulful level. Some people attribute this to those that are really in love, or they met their true match, and their true match passes away, and then they die soon after. It's an utter sorrow that they've attributed. I'm not saying that is exactly what it is, but so John 16, 33 is the chapter that is all about the sorrow, getting past this trial of sorrow and sadness, and finding within the light. And so the one that's most attributed to that is, of course, Raphael, and he is the healer. Of course, his counterpart is Aurora, who gives you peace within the pain. And so most Taoism and Buddhists would say to meet enlightenment. Well, and some other dialects, Scandinavian, the dark side, reaching to the round table up there in Odin's table, or Freya. You have to be the best warrior, right? And even though there's sorrow or sadness, they're not. It's a blessing because we're protecting. And so we get to sit up after death in a everlasting. So there's a peace within the pain. There's a peace within the healing. And so basically that is the trial, is when you're approached with or presented with sadness or extreme sorrow, depression, find peace within it. And then there's Isaiah, and that is our sixth one, and it's chapter 30. Isaiah 30, chapter 20 through 21. And this is all of, look for my wisdom and guide. Be guided through all the wisdom that I present to you. And that is really over and over again, you need to find the wisdom within, and the wisdom's within. So it's Zadkiel is all about righteousness. Now, this is another characteristic. So this is the vibration that you need to have. It's all about the internal wisdom. Am I being, and am guiding myself in the most righteous way? Righteous is a characteristic. That's the vibration. And then when we go back up, if you wanted to go to Jophiel, which is the beauty, is the frequency. So the beauty with the wisdom, the righteous beauty and righteous. So there's the frequency is the beauty, and then the righteous is this, and it's all a state of vibrations and frequencies internal. You can't think it out. You can't say it out. You can't act it out. It actually feels. People register it as those. So those are something that has to be within soulful. So those are actual embedded in your DNA genome, down to your basic nuclear structure is part of that, and you can develop those. So righteousness is all about being able to be guided in the wisdom way. And once again, you can't think your way out. And then, of course, the last trial is in Isaiah 43, chapter 2, and that's be that be with you throughout the promise. Believe that I will be there when you are in floods. I will be there when you are in fire. Just have this belief, this knowing, this absolute truth, divine protection from me, that your best interest is in me. So surrender, basically, is the last trial, is to surrender to the divine. And the two closest are your twins. We call them Freya and Frick, but in the biblical, it is Michael and Michaela. And she's the grace, she's the divine being, and he is the divine actor. So he is the divine justice, she is the divine being. And so they play with each other. Of course, they are actually, you have your divine, and this is where Michaela is more of your divine grace. You have your divine being, which is your beauty, right? Your frequency. And then you had your divine justice, which is Michael, which is your righteousness, which is your vibration. And that's how your 7 trials, in my perspective, but in multiple disciplines, they kind of go in the same realm. So if we wanted to work in the 7 jubilees, and every 7 years it goes over, but Jesus is also attributed to them. He had 7 trials. The 7 trials of Hercules was the same when it comes to Greek mythology. They had the 7 trials. We had the 7 battles, and Ragnarok comes, which is what we would call your jubilee. Is ours would be Ragnarok, where the great fire would come and clear it all out, and then the great phoenix would come back out. There's other denominations that would talk about a phoenix as well. But ours, of course, would be the God Killer, which is our dragon that chases. And so our dragons and our wolves chase the moon, chase the sun, and then they'll catch them. After 7 years, it'll catch. So I'm going to go back to our stage 1, trial 1, because Jesus had 7 trials too. But he also was charged 7 times. So Jesus was charged, and on the 7th one, he was hung on the cross. So he was first charged, and he didn't get no sentence. Then he had a second charge, but he was found guilty. But of course, it violated Jewish law. The third charge that he had, and they were Sanhedrin, and that one was celebrating or doing a religious ceremony outside of the actual time that you're supposed to do. But the second time that he got charged with that was invalid as well. There was a third attempt on that, and that one he was given mercy by the Lord at the time. Then he had Harold, who charged him but didn't convict him, and charged him with fallacy, blasphemy, almost like portraying that he was a godlike. And then you had another false accusation, and then of course Judas turned him in because he was going to go to court as being blasphemy, pretending to be something he wasn't, and they ended up hanging him, of course, on the cross within, I think they said 24 hours, but I get a lot of mixed time frames on that. But interesting enough is 7 days, it took 7 trials for Jesus, and then he get hung on the 7th. We have our 7 trials for your soul to obtain true enlightenment, and that was in Isaiah, and that was being full surrender, and have faith that you will be protected, and that is the way to enlightenment. You need all the other trials to conquer those trials to be able to obtain that full surrender. But Jesus spoke of a way, and so this is where I think a lot of different perspectives and different denominations talk about it. They talked about the seven, that Jesus is the way to heaven. But I've heard a lot of other ways is the seven trials are states of beings and the states of conquering. Enlightenment Buddhist would be the seven ways of being, and you have to master these ways. And some Christian denominations would also talk about that you would have to become fully present and being with God, one with Him. You have to be in a state of being. Judaism is kind of the same. Islamic's religion. Of course, you can pray to some gods and goddesses, and then of course the God and the source to come, and then they'll send some reinforcements, angels. Freya, Odin would be one we would do. And of course, the source above Odin, we would call on to our god killers. We would call on to the ice giants, and I'll talk about Norse mythology on another day. But so let's get back to seven. There was the seven states of being that Jesus spoke of in the Bible. And so I don't know if this is where people get it curved that He is the way, because that actually is probably a misdefinition, and it's also maybe a bit rumorish, because you don't want to believe rumors if there's no fact or validity to it. But He always talked about the state of being. So He said, I am the way. I am. Those are the things that He's talking about. I am the way. So He is trying to talk about, look at what I am. Look what I do. Look what I represent. That is what it is. It's not I have Him and put Him as a martyr, because that in itself is not the way. Him being martyrized as a God is not what I believe His true intentions were, because you can go through the whole Bible and you can read through the Judaism. Well, He is not really recognized like that, but He is a prophet of John the Baptist, and so was Muhammad. But then if you can go back in the other denominations and other theologies, they do talk about this I am. Taoism is big on it. So is Buddhism. And mindfulness and meditations are some. The Shaolin monks also in Thailand, they practice this I am being. And so I am set. Jesus spoke of the seven, and they kind of correlate with a lot of our seven trials. So I'll say the one for our first trial, which is First Peter, was the genuine, the faith, have faith. Jesus trial, He said, I am truth. I am truth. I have to have truth. I have to have faith. I have to be embodied with Gabriel and Hanel and this intuition and this strength. I have to be it. I am that. I'm the truth. I'm there. So that is a characteristic that he had to embody to conquer that trial of lack of faith, lack of being genuine. He had to combat it with truth, with the strength and his intuition that I know I just have to have faith, right? So he had to embody that. So that is a way. James the second, which is our second trial, which is all about joy, patience, being able to see it and believe it from an internal way. He said, I am life. So his second one was, I am life. Life. He's looking at life. He's seeing it. He needed Shamuel to help him really see the joy and be patient, be absolutely relaxed and peace, seeing all of it, seeing the truth within it, seeing God's creation. He had to see it. That was the second trial. To believe, to have faith and love life, you have to see life. And then the third one, third trial was Romans, and that was seeing the beauty within all of life. And this is where he had to take on the characteristics of actually being a frequency of beauty, right? And this was him being the light. He said, I am the light. So there's the third one. I am the light. I am actually the frequency of being beauty. I'm being it. I'm seeing it. It's everywhere. I needed the second to conquer the second one so I could see. And now that I see, I am it. I need to be. Look at all of what God created. No hands, no eyes, leprosy. I mean, he Jesus was looking at it and he was showing it. And then we had the fourth one, which is James. And this is to persevere, to preserve, protect the promise. And of course, you needed Uriel, which was the god of light, and Jophiel, which is the knowledge of thought. She guarded the tree of light. And so this was all about when Jesus said, I had to conquer, and I am the door. He's talking about, this is the door. I am the door. I'm going to show you. Look at the door. Look at who's protecting it. The light, the knowledge that the creator has put here. He has promised us all of this. This is the door. It's not he's the door. He's showing you the door. And then you have number 5. And number 5 is when John 16 is the trial of the sorrow and sadness, where you had to enlist Raphael for the healing, Aurora for peace. You had to find peace within the pain. This is all about, he had the 5th trial, and his 5th, he's saying, I am. So this is when he said during this state is, I am the resurrection of life. This is it. The 5th one, you need to enlist this to become a resurrection of your own life. You must let fall. Pain dies away. Beauty is within the pain and death and sadness. So once you get depressed, and once you get sad, or once you get sorrow, you will bypass it. You will see the light and move past. Once it heals, you'll find peace in it. Our 7 stages of grief is the same, kind of on the same realms. When I'm talking therapeutic as well. So on the 5th is, this is the resurrection of life. I am resurrection of life. He was embodying this being. And then the 6th one is the guidance of wisdom. This is all about being righteous. This is the vibration of being righteous, being wise, being led, just knowing I am righteous from within. And this is all about, in Isaiah, which is the trial, is not having to be the good wise one, not being a good shepherd. And so Jesus has said, to embody it, you need to be a good shepherd. You need to feel it. And that's the 6th one, is you need to be righteous. You actually have to do it on a vibration. And that is how you embody it. I am. And then the 7th one is, of course, with Michael and Michaela, which are the divine justice, which is the states of action, and then the divine being, which is the states of knowing and are. And this is where just you are embraced, whether it's through the sorrow and the sadness, or through the beauty and the light, that you are being protected. You just need to surrender. And this is when Jesus says, I am also the divine, the vine. I am divine. So I've mastered enlightenment. I am now. So if you were going to go to Buddhism and stuff, this would be the last one. And you would embody both aspects of being and doing, and encompassing all of this: the truth, life, light, the doorway, resurrecting your own life, pruning what doesn't need to be pruned, bring me in what you need to be bring in, being the good shepherd, and being the divine. So when I hear that, Jesus saying I am, this goes along with the 7 trials, and then the 7 archangels, and the 7 female archangels. But then also, again, the trials are all about, you need the dark side, which is your shadowy side, which is like the 7 fallen princes. They are in guards. They are in charge of doing some of the counterbalances of producing the sadness, producing you to try to test your faith, to bring you irritants, to bring you lust, to make sure, can you not persevere and rise up to see God's beauty, but also, can you see the truth within the deception? And so you need to go all the way back up. So you need your dark as well as your light to help make sure your frequency and your vibrations are on a godly, divine level to ascend to enlightenment. And so that is the 7 trials. And go read it. So there's 1 Peter's, James, which is the first, James, Romans 8, James chapter 1 again, which is 12 instead of 2, John 16, Isaiah 30, and Isaiah 43. And then go and look at some of the Jesus's trials too. And then the next one, I'll talk about how the significance of 7-7, but there's also the Hercules ones. But there's the connectivity of where you need the frequency and the vibrations, and how do you get those frequency and vibrations. And you got to get down to what's basically Taoism calls it the middle way, but I would call it Middle Earth, and that's where we are. So this is where we combat and we persevere on these 7 trials to be able to ascend into a higher being, and then we'll move up to another plane. And so this is kind of the middle space, but a lot of meditation would consider it the middle path. So you have your left and you have your right, and then you have your logistic, you have your emotional and your logic tied, and then you come down. So there's a lot of therapeutic in that as well. So that is the 7 trials. There's many different ones. If we were going to talk about enlightenment and Buddhism, they have a 7 different set of trials, which is similar to this. So I can do several different of those. But until next time, thanks for watching me, and come back, go learn, have questions. That's cool. I always do those. Once again, I'm Catherine, and I'm the Scandinavian Seer, and I'm also a therapist. So have a good one. Bye.